everybody. So it's Saturday, so that means it's time for news. So let's just get to the news. I'm also still dying, so I'm afraid you'll have to put up with that as well. Let me just swap the desktop over. Okay, good. I think we're in business here. So I have the stream going on my phone in front of me as well, so I can actually read the chat this time also. Anyway, the biggest news, or probably most important news, well, important probably isn't the right word, but probably the most impactful, is that Google announced what they were doing with gaming, and Google announces Stadia, its bold new game streaming service. So yes, it was a streaming service, as I thought it would be last week. Basically, this is the controller. Can we get a better picture of it? Which looks suspiciously like the Switch's Pro controller, except it's got this. Well, I can't highlight it, but it's got a button in the middle. Anyway, go away. So basically, their whole deal is if you have a device that can run Chrome or can access a Chrome browser in some way, you should be able to play a game with Google Stadia, and you wouldn't even necessarily need their controller. It will work with any controller. Any controller. I don't know. They haven't exactly decided which controllers yet, but basically, Chrome browser on like your laptop, your mobile phone, your desktop, tablet, you know, whatever you would have, and then Chromecasts as well if you have the Ultra 4K Chromecast, the expensive one, basically. So basically the way it'll work is they have their own processing done on their server, and they will essentially send you the image of the game. You know, as streaming is done, you know, you watch a video on YouTube, you're not watching a local file, you're watching the file being played on one of their servers and it being sent to you. They boast a couple of things about the GPU, the CPU, well, you know, technical stuff. This was a talk given at GDC, so, you know, people in the room would have been interested in the technical stuff, but having, you know, more than the PS4 and the Xbox One combined in teraflops, but it doesn't matter because it has to go across the internet anyway. This isn't exactly new technology. This has happened before. OnLive is one that's mentioned in this article, which was a game streaming service years ago that basically ran into the problem of people have shit internet and it doesn't work. Sony and Microsoft are also doing their own streaming service, so it's not like Google are coming in and showing off something you know, amazing and new. This is more or less where the industry wants to go. They want to get away from having to build hardware. You know, they'd rather cut down on their costs because they don't have to ship, you know, units and things like that, so that they could keep it all on the cloud. But the problem, of course, will be latency, lag, and, you know, just general input dropping and things like that. You know, the whole problem with playing games streamed is that the internet gets in the way and is kind of shitty in most places, particularly in, you know, rural places and things like that. They've got a couple of good, interesting features. They've got like state sharing, where you can save the game state, basically, like you would in a kind of emulator, and send that to another person where they can play the game from that state. And you can set up kind of like challenges and things. That's the way they go with it. But in another way, it's a way of just boosting. You could just save the game in such a state that I have all the things, you know. I have max health and max whatever, and now I'm just going to send this to you so you can finish the game really easily. Crowd play is another interesting one, where it's just setting up a queue for people to join you in game. It would be like saving you the time of having to send friend requests and accepting the friend requests and then sending invites. You know, it cuts out all of that. Again, not everybody wants that. Like I, in particular, while I like playing games online, I don't necessarily want to play with people online. They've got a couple of other things like streaming directly to YouTube from the Stadia's controller. You know, it has a dedicated YouTube button. Don't know how good that will be. It's also got a dedicated Google Assistant button. The example they used in in their presentation was interesting in that, like, they're playing Tomb Raider and they're like, I'm stuck on this puzzle, and they ask their Google Assistant, how do I get past this puzzle? And it shows a video, here's how you get past it. Debatable if it'll actually work that well in, you know, in the wild. There's not a lot of information. They gave a lot of spec, but nothing about cost, you know, how much it's going to cost people. Is it really any better than having a dedicated device, etc.? You know, they're attempting to make it 4K 60 frames per second on current internet infrastructure. I can barely get a video to play at that. Never mind getting an actual game to play at that. But anyway, Google Stadia, there's plenty of news about it online. Do, if you have time, have a look at their actual presentation. Other news out this week, Nintendo did another Nindies. That's their kind of live stream, even though it's not really live. I'm pretty sure it's pre-recorded. But anyway, they announced a couple of indie titles coming. So Polygon have a bit of a roundup here. Cuphead, which was a Microsoft exclusive, so Xbox, PC exclusive, is now coming to Switch. So that's part of the partnership with Microsoft that they've been doing. I already have it, so I won't be getting it, but you know, good game. If you have a Switch and you don't have Cuphead yet, that'll be good. Coming out in April, so fairly soon. Rad, another thing from Double Fine, looks weird. Not for me, to be honest. A couple of other things here. Nuclear Throne is a very good roguelike game. Blaster Master Zero is also a very good retro style game. There's a couple of games that aren't mentioned here. Well, the Legend of Zelda thing is mentioned here, but I wanted to show you because they're actual games that interest me. So Creature of the Well didn't come up in Polygon's rundown. Maybe that tells you something about Polygon, I don't know. But it's kind of a part hack and slash, part pinball thing. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the trailer. And I'll put the headphones on for this. And we'll watch it on YouTube, just so we don't get any bullshit. Turn down the audio a bit. And full screen it, why not? Right, so it's kind of got the pinball sort of thing, and that you're bouncing things around the landscape. I wonder if it is actually a kind of rhythm-y game as well, in that the trailer is certainly trying to make it seem like it's a rhythm game. Cool. I actually hadn't seen that trailer, so the video they show in the Nindies is different, I think. But they're showing you, like, you get extra pinballs and knocking things around environment and hitting enemies with them and stuff like that. It looks interesting. You know, I haven't really seen that before in... I've seen games that use a kind of reflecting, you know, mechanic, but nothing that, like, their entire game is based around it, so I'd be interested to see how that turns out. The Red Lantern, it looks like it's going to be a sad time, but we'll have a look at it anyway.
Do you have those moments that stick out in your mind? When I was a kid, I was told you are what you do, so choose wisely. I could be an astronaut, a CEO, a painter, a doctor. I could be anything. Hi, I'm supposed to achieve great things. Unfortunately for me, you are also your mistakes. And turns out they tend to remember those more. Hi.
Yeah, doggos.
I'm disappointed. So, I've decided to become something else. Something that can't be forgotten. I've got a plan. Get a van, fill it with dogs, go to Alaska, race in the Iditarod dog sled race, and finish. Nothing could take that from me.
Do I have to finish first? 'Cause this is going to be kind of difficult.
Dogs, sled, on way. However,
Go away.
things tend
Can I
to
turn these off?
right up until now.
Apparently I can't. I don't know. Good job, IGN. No! Screw you, bear. Right. So that kind of strikes me as a sort of Firewatch, but Alaska with dogs and sad things. There was a bit more in the actual Indies presentation, but it's somewhat procedurally generated, somewhat random encounters, so you won't always necessarily encounter the bear. I have a feeling you'll encounter the bear at least once on purpose, scripted wise. There's a couple of shots that they show later where you are down a dog, so there were 5 dogs there and you only had 4 dogs later on. So I guess you can lose dogs. That's why I thought it was going to be a sad time, because if I lose a dog, I might have to just restart the whole game. I'm not playing through the game losing a dog. Anyway, that's the Red Lantern. And this last one came in as a sort of, oh, by the way, I was going to play it because it's nuts. I didn't think Nintendo would ever allow something like this, but...
Finally, I'm almost out of this crypt. But this isn't the world I remember. At least this guy is familiar. And that pulsing rhythm. Wait, I think I was called here for a purpose. It looks like I've got work to do. And this time, I have help.
Nice. God damn it, IGN. Like, it's such a great idea. Crypt the Necrodancer, if you're not familiar, is a rhythm roguelike game where you have the kind of descending down into a dungeon, but your movement is based on rhythm. Like, there's a little meter in the bottom of the screen that your movements have to be timed in case with that, so moving, attacking, and so on, it's done to the beat of the song. And matching that with The Legend of Zelda, which has such recognizable and really good music, it's a great combination. And Crypt the Necrodancer, I always appreciated it as a cool idea for a game, but not for me because it seemed really stressful. But Legend of Zelda has really good music, and I might have to get this. But it's super good. It's really interesting because Spike Chunsoft, of course, are not a Nintendo first party. They're not Nintendo Spike Chunsoft or whatever. So having them have the Legend of Zelda attached to their namesake is very interesting, and it's good to see Nintendo kind of branching out in these kind of things. Hopefully we'll see more of that. This is a teaser for System Shock 3. This is given at GDC as well. GDC was this week. Again, we'll just play the trailer. Long in development, System Shock 3, or not long in development exactly, but the rights for System Shock kind of went back and forth a lot. So it hasn't actually been that long in development, but it's certainly been long desired. I can't think of the word. Basically, Starbreeze had it for a long time, and we had news last week, or possibly the week before, that Starbreeze, kind of shit the bed. They had to sell off a lot of their stuff, so they ended up giving it to some other people. Night Dive, I think. Is it Night Dive? Other side. Maybe Night Dive are doing the remake. Anyway, here's a bit of System Shock 3. It's only a teaser, it's very short. It's very loud also.
There is nowhere to hide. I see everything you do.
Night Dive, I knew it was Night Dive. Maybe Unity. Cool. So I'm just going to show this one again, or not again, as well, just before we talk about it. So System Shock, the original, is also getting a remake. So they had some gameplay. So gameplay videos tend to be kind of long. It's 20 minutes, so we won't be watching all of this. But I can talk over it, even though I haven't watched this. Night Dive doing the remake as I thought they were. So I have this backed on Kickstarter. typically what I do when I back things on Kickstarter is I back them and then just ignore them until the game actually comes out, or I hear it's been cancelled, one or the other. But System Shock, as you might note, and it might become apparent just from looking at the HUD, is a precursor to the kind of interactive sim style games. So games like Deus Ex, Bioshock, Prey, Dishonored, those kind of games. It was kind of the first one, or very close to the first one. I'm not sure if Deus Ex came out before this, the original Deus Ex. This is a remake of that. System Shock is a very beloved PC title, so I'm very interested to see how the remake turns out. You got the pipe. But anyway, this is 20 minutes long, so we're not going to watch the whole thing, so skip. Skipsies. Skipsies. Okay, there's a lot there. The link will be in the description anyway if you want to check it out. Right, speaking of long beloved and long awaited sequels and sequels we thought we'd never get, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 is happening. Holy shit. Now let's just play the teaser. It's not even a teaser, it's 2 minutes long. Anyway. Vampire the Masquerade is a very old again, it's a kind of immersive kind of sim thing where you play a vampire trying to just go about your daily business, I guess. It's a big cult hit. Anyway, we'll leave this. I'll let you watch this.
You're young. You'll fight over scraps. Safety is bought with blood. Yours. Theirs. Ours. Make one mistake, and it's over. Here, no one's hands stay clean.
The Shining as well, I guess.
You will come to despise it as much as I do. But I've waited so long to see it again.
Is there more to this? No. Okay. Right. So, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. Yes. Yes, please. There were some kind of rumors that this was happening, but now it's official on Xbox, PS4, PC. At some stage this year, I think they're planning on releasing it. Obviously, that trailer looked very, pre-rendered. CG. The game will be first person, which I believe is a change. I've only kind of heard of the original Vampire the Masquerade, and it's something like I always wanted to play, but I haven't really found the time to do it. But now that there's a sequel, it's always something that's kind of appealed to me, so I will definitely be jumping into the original before this comes out, just to see what it's, see what the hype was about. I was about to say I'm a sucker for vampires, but that was a horrible pun and it wasn't intended to be, so I'm not going to say it even though I just said it. Anyway, I'd be excited to see how this turns out. Right, last of the trailers, I think. This isn't necessarily a trailer, so again, GDC is the Game Developers Conference, where they show off, technical stuff as well. So this came from NVIDIA's kind of real-time ray tracing demo, which will probably not be super interesting to anybody else, but it did have gameplay for Control, which is something we haven't seen yet. So this is the latest from Remedy, who are responsible for Alan Wake. and Max Payne. They may not be responsible for Max Payne, I'm not sure. I think they are. Definitely for Alan Wake, though. So, floaty people. Obviously showing off, NVIDIA are showing off, you know, their new tech and so on. So that's what real-time ray tracing. You can get, you know, extra specularity from the floors and things like that. It's not what we're interested in, though. We're interested in how the game plays. Shape-shifty gun. That's cool. I always thought the gun looked really cool. And we can fly. Nice. So there's some element of like reality warping or excuse me, like telekinesis stuff going on in Control. Okay, interesting to see how it actually plays.
Choosing a director tied to all objects of power in terms of who controls them. Yes. The white non-space, the ever-present inverted black. The board, all linked, intrinsically tied in terms of who controls them.
Anyway, this is more stuff about, you know, graphics pipelines and things like that. How to make the room look more realistic.
Regardless, this place is vitally important to the character. Most information on the outside.
That shit's impressive, though. That was impressive. That the moving the lamp to have surface scattering and stuff like that. Not super interesting, I'm sure, to most people watching, but I did a master's in graphics and stuff like that, so it interests me, but I'm sure it's not interesting to you. Anyway, this is more for announcements and industry stuff now. So Beat Saber will be coming to Oculus Quest. If you're not familiar, Oculus Quest is a... Oh, they do have a trailer. Never mind. Well, watch the trailer. It's not... There's not much to see in the trailer. You already know what Beat Saber looks like. This is more to say that the Oculus Quest is a completely wire-free VR headset, so something that definitely the vast majority of people interested in VR and who haven't gotten VR yet would be interested in seeing, because you don't need a big fancy PC to play it, you don't need your PS4 to play it, you don't need to be connected up, you don't have cables hanging all over you and stuff like that. You don't have to set up beacons like you do for the HTC Vive because it's got inside-out tracking. So, good. The Oculus Quest itself is great, but obviously it's kind of useless if it doesn't have good games. It's got Beat Saber coming for it, so that's good. Beat Saber is a fantastic VR game. Hopefully, its tracking is also works really good with the... because it doesn't have a camera, obviously. The PS4 has a camera, HTC has its beacon pylon stuff. Hopefully it works well, but yeah, that's good to hear. Return of the Aubergine wins the grand prize at the Independent Games Festival Awards. It also won an award for Best Narrative. So Return of the Aubergine was a game that appeared on the channel. It was in the games of December 2018. I can't remember if it appeared in the best games. I'm not sure. It was definitely a highlight, anyway, of the year, even though it was only coming in at the end. It's got this kind of monochromatic Apple II look to it, a kind of piecing the story together, kind of. I was going to say choose your own adventure, but it's not really. There's only one adventure. You just have to sort of figure out how everything happened. So something really bad happened on the Aubergine, and you just have to figure out what it was. Even looking at the screenshot, I can hear the the theme music in the back of my head. So good game, very, very good. Right. So we were already looking at Control, but Control, Journey to the Savage Planet, and The Outer Worlds, which is a kind of Fallout but not Fallout, are coming to the Epic Game Store as exclusives. And in addition to that, all of Quantic Dream's games, well, okay, the good ones, the good ones, are also coming to PC for the first time, but they're coming as Epic Game Store exclusives. This continues Epic Game Store's exclusivity run and kind of pissing off a lot of the PC master race. Exclusivity is anti-consumer. I mean, it is. You know, if you can only get it in one spot, that's a monopoly. You know, that's not good. Epic themselves have said that they're going to tone down this whole exclusivity thing. My guess is that because they don't have a ton of games on the store right now, they just need to beef up. They just need to beef it up. So they're throwing their money around. They're throwing that Fortnite cash at anybody who'll listen. The Quantic Dream one is a bit surprising, but I guess it doesn't surprise me. David Cage and so on. The Outer Worlds, though. So, Outer Worlds is being published by Take-Two. And Take-Two were on the record as basically saying that, the best way to sell your game, or to be in the best position to sell your game, is to go where the players are. Which everyone more or less took as Steam, GOG, or Humble Bundle, something like that. But to make themselves exclusive is obviously a complete turnaround for them. So I guess Strauss got a lot of cash out of that Fortnite money. I don't know. It's annoying. I mean, I don't have a horse in this Epic Game Store stuff because I play the vast majority of my games on console. There's very few games I play on PC. And if I do, they tend to be independent titles, so they don't tend to be the AAA stuff. Anyway, so this was continuing on news from last week. So Pierre Taki, who appears in Judgment and in Kingdom Hearts and various other things. God damn it. Okay. This is basically Sega saying that Judgments, which is the game, Western release will not be affected by Pierre Taki's drug arrest. So basically what they're doing is they're going to scrub his likeness and his voice from the game. And I guess they're going to have to re-record and re-render the scenes that he appears in with a different actor or whatever. But they're basically saying that the game will still hit its June target, June 25th. So it'll still hit that target. So nothing to worry about on the Western release. It's more the current Japanese release will obviously have to get a big patch to take all that stuff out. But anyway, it's not affected, but still not, it's not great news. More shitty news. Axiom Verge producers suing Badland Publishing for $200K. So this was news that limited run games, which as their name might suggest, they do limited physical versions of some games that typically don't get physical versions. So Axiom Verge was a digital only game for most platforms, but they eventually got their Wii U physical edition coming out next week. I think it is March 29th next week. To which people responded with, "Okay, you're a bit late to the party on that one, but all right." And basically the reason they were late to the party on that one is that their original publisher, Badland Publishing, just gave them the fucking runaround on money. They had a deal, and the reason they took the deal was that they were going to get the typical revenue share that publishers and developers agree to. But Badland Publishing basically said they would give a cut to create a trust fund for one of the developers' children who had a kind of disability, and basically the publisher didn't do that. And there are a couple of different Twitter responses, email responses and things going back and forth, but basically it looks like the publisher wasn't going to pay until legal proceedings started, and then they were all about paying to not have to go into legal proceedings. So it's bad shit, but this kind of thing sucks. Axiom Verge, though, good game. You check it out if you can. And last bit of news, this is more of a kind of something to look forward to for next week. PlayStation are doing a live stream. Again, another live stream. I have a feeling this will also be pre-recorded, but who knows. Show on Monday. So following the kind of Nintendo Direct style thing, which is what it says in the title. PlayStation or Sony will be doing the same thing. State of Play, March 25th, that's Monday at these times. That's 9 p.m. my time. So at least it's at a time that I can watch it. It's not in the middle of the workday or at some stupid hour in the middle of the morning. Sony don't have a huge number of exclusives lined up this year. Or some not announced, or at least they don't have release dates, which was given because they aren't going to be at E3 because they don't really have anything to announce. There's a couple of them here that Eurogamer bring up, like The Last of Us 2 probably will be out this year. Death Stranding is not going to be out this year. Dreams is not going to be out this year. Ghost of Tsushima, maybe. We haven't seen a lot of it, so I kind of doubt it. I have a feeling it'll be pushed to next year. But it'd be interesting to see what they're talking about. Sony were only on the record as basically saying upcoming PS4 and PSVR software. So, you know, who knows what that means. But interesting in that they're doing it. They're also saying that this won't be the only state of play. So maybe they'll do a somewhat bigger one at E3 rather than having a conference. They'll just do this kind of Nintendo Direct style thing. Who knows? But anyway, it's something to look forward to anyway. And I said I had the stream on my phone, but then my phone turned itself off. So hopefully there wasn't anyone in the chat. There was nobody in the chat anyway. Cool. Anyway, that's the news for this week. So some cool announcements from Nintendo and some interesting news out of GDC. Google Stadia, we don't know enough about it yet. I have like if anyone can get game streaming working, it's Google. You know, they have the tech, they have the money, and they certainly have the server space and breadth. You know, they have I can't think of the word now, but they have, you know, servers all over the world, and I want to say endpoint, but that's not the real word. Anyway, they have lots of shit. Google definitely have the infrastructure to do this, but at the same time, I don't think, or maybe they are taking into account, but I don't know. But you know, shitty internet, usage caps, shitty ISPs, and so on. You know, I mean, US broadband averages at about 15 megs down, which isn't close to being able to do that. You know, 4K, 60 FPS. Irish broadband is not much better. I get 50, but that's like considered very fast. And I'm in the city. I'm in Dublin. You know, if you go out into the outside of Dublin, internet speeds drop down dramatically. So I don't see it working, to be honest. Or it's certainly not the kind of uptake that Google would probably want. And then the extra kind of wrinkle is that Google don't stick to their projects. Google tend to just dump them. Just unceremoniously. Just this year, we're going to lose. Inbox is going to go. Hangouts is going to go. Google Plus is going to go. And then in addition to that, we've lost Google Reader. We've lost Allo. We've lost Google Buzz, we've lost Google Wave, we've lost tons of shit, basically. They don't stick to their projects, is the problem. So there's definitely the idea that Google will just disappear after 2 years. And then we've got the other issue in that all these games are digital because they're coming streaming. You know, you don't have the disc in your hand. Now, I don't keep discs anymore, mostly because I don't have the space for them. And also, my original PS4 just kept spitting the disc out, so I wasn't really able to play games. So I've kind of somewhat transitioned over to digital, but at the same time, you know, I do have the kind of preservationist streak in me. So how do you keep these games alive long after Google Stadia disappears? I don't know. Again, we don't know enough. We don't know enough about Google Stadia to say either way what will happen. Anyway, yes, streaming. I was streaming Sekiro last night, and I will be continuing that tonight at some stage, probably around 8 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., something like that, my time. That's GMT or BST. I don't maybe transition to BST yet, so GMT. So look forward to that, hopefully. Hopefully some people will turn up this time. Either way, archives are on the YouTube channel and so on. There was something else I wanted to bring up. Oh, yes. I did mention that Left Alive and Generation Zero would appear in Games of March, but they won't because Left Alive is not a good game. That seems to be fairly unanimous. And Generation Zero appears to require co-op, so that kind of scuppers that for me. So I won't be touching that. So we'll be looking at Sekiro. We'll be looking at Devil May Cry 5. I've platinumed Kingdom Hearts 3, so I definitely have a lot to talk about on Kingdom Hearts 3. So there'll be more to say on that. And then there are a couple of games on Switch that I have been looking at, so I might pull them into the Games of March instead, just to make up some space, because a couple of games fell through. The Sinking City was the other one. The Sinking City had a stealth delay. It wasn't announced. They just very quietly changed the date of their release. So it was supposed to be Thursday, last Thursday, before Sekiro, but it's changed to June at some point now. So yeah, that obviously will not be appearing on Games of March because I don't have the game to play it. Anyway, links to all the videos and articles will be in the archive on YouTube. Will be going up tomorrow at some stage. Yes. And the archive for Sekiro's live stream yesterday is up now. Went up at 12, so went up more or less when the stream started. And there will be more tonight.